Hey, welcome to Expat Diaries podcast. We are Costa Rica edition. We are speaking today to Pablo, and Pablo and I have already had a conversation just to kind of meet and greet and learn about all of the great things that he has brought to the expat community. And although Pablo is a Costa Rican or a Tico, Pablo spends his days every day making that transition for expats as easy and as seamless as possible with as least amount of friction. And he's been doing this for such a long time now that we probably call him that relocation expert. So without further ado, hello, Pablo. How are you today?
Hello, Robin. How are you? We're doing great.
Super,
Thank you for
super.
such a kind introduction. It
Absolutely.
feels amazing.
So I know that when we first talked, you talked about the time that you spent in the US doing construction work, and you spent about 8 years in the US. Tell me about that time for a second.
Well, it's that's a dream. That's like a dream for a lot of people in Latin America. You see a lot of people traveling, either walking, taking the bus, taking a plane, crossing the border, going through Mexico, and they wanted to become an immigrant. We have this dream since we were kids, and we said, well, this is the American dream, where this is where I can potentially work my ass and make a lot of money and bring bags with dollars back to Costa Rica. That's kind of like the dream. For me, I wanted to learn English, so it was just an idea of I just gonna spend 6 months or maybe 3 months or 6 months, learn a second language, and then come back. But after a few months being in the US, I bought my first car, a really old car, 1994, 1994 uh, Ford Aspire, something
Wow.
horrible. It was like a $700 car. but, but in Costa Rica, if I wanted to purchase a car, I would just never buy a car with like 17, 18. It would take me 3 years of just saving, and it would not it would be maybe a motorcycle. So to me, it's like, oh, maybe 2 months in the
Mm.
US. I just got me my first car, and I just felt so proud. I just keep on going, keep on pushing, keep on working, and keep on trying to figure out what do I wanted to do. I knew if after doing anything, just construction, maybe cleaning houses, dishwashing, dishwasher, anything that you can think of, 3 jobs, 60, 70 hours sometimes in a week, saving money and doing what many immigrants do when they move to the United States. Um,
So were
Start
you there with
thinking,
family or with friends?
no,
Just you went all
no,
by
no.
yourself and you didn't know
I
anybody?
initially I initially moved with two friends. We were in the same boat. It's like, "Hey, let's go. When I know somebody that lives in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Maybe they can, give us, a place to stay for a couple of weeks until we find a place to stay or an apartment." And yeah,
Did you speak
initially I ended up
any
living
did you speak any English at that time? Oh,
zero,
wow.
zero English, very, very little English. Uh, So I remember living at the very beginning, maybe 6, 7 guys in a one-bedroom studio. I used to sleep under the table. Like, I bought me myself a little. It's not even a mattress. One of those.
Like a sleeping bag?
Uh, yeah, it was. It's not even a mattress. It was just one of those roll
Yeah, it's a sleeping.
cushion
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know
materials.
what you mean, for sure.
You bought those thing for like $30, $30 at Walmart.
Like
That
a
was my bed. Under the table of the studio, and somebody else in the couch, somebody else in another corner. And that's our way, or that's the way of many immigrants who move to the United States.
and,
They're
that's something to be admired, and I know that
crazy.
politically in the United States, like, we take so much for granted, that and,
They're
that's something to be admired, and I know that
crazy.
politically in the United States, like, we take so much for granted, that that you guys all came here and were willing to live like that, to be able to possibly live the American dream or to live a dream better than what you had back home. And, we have all of the luxuries, all of the opportunity here, and most people aren't willing to sacrifice that. We see people, and I don't like to talk politics at all, but we see people that are going, what do you mean that minimum wage is only $13? How can people live on that? And you know how they're like, I can't afford an apartment on that. Like, yes, you can. You just need 4 roommates. That's how
Yeah,
we did
or
it. That's how we did it when we were younger. Like minimum wage when I was younger was like $4 an hour. And so like, you know what you did? You had a bunch of roommates just like that because everyone needs to share the costs.
maybe just stop going to Starbucks for a $5 coffee.
For sure.
That's it. I just didn't have that luxury back then.
Like
Maybe you, or maybe
I
just
don't even still
getting
do that.
a roommate, or
I make
maybe
my own
get
coffee
two
every day.
jobs and just grow.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. I had more than one job. I mean, the entire time growing up. And so
So it's
I mean, I admire you guys making that trek and you stayed for quite a while.
I have to say it was a struggle. It was a learning. It was a learning period of time for me. It was a struggle. I learned a lot. Um, I start thinking maybe I should do better than this. Maybe instead of doing 3 jobs, I can do something else. And I always wanted to own a business. It's in my family. My dad owned businesses. My uncles, they all have some sort of a business. Uh, so I learned to myself, like, if I wanted to, own a business, I better get my English better. Like, I need to speak better English. Being in South Carolina, nobody's gonna buy anything from me if I don't speak English, and I need to learn how to sell. So I remember myself back then. My context, I also go to church. I used to go to the Hispanic church, so I was helping at church a little bit. Um, and they gave me a little spot in the local Hispanic radio for my church. So I was thinking maybe I need to learn how to sell. Maybe I need to learn how to find myself a sponsorship for my radio show for my church. And I didn't know anything about selling, or I'm very little English. This was a Hispanic radio show, so I know little English. That's it. So I went myself to the bookstore to buy me a sales book. You might know this book is the Little Red Book of Sales.
Yes.
Little red book, because I don't like, honestly, I don't like reading. I read the minimum amount as possible. I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts. So maybe me is like, I'm just gonna find this smallest book I can possibly find, something very practical
That's a
with a
good
lot of pictures, a lot of that's the book. It's a good book, by the way.
it is a good
um so a week after going through this book, I was like, if I want to learn how to sell, I just gotta get me a job in sales.
mm,
I went to a dealership just to look at cars. And the first guy that talked to me was a guy from Uruguay, Hispanic salesman, right? They sent the dealership sent somebody to speak Spanish to the Latino looking guy. And I started talking to Fabricio. His name is Fabricio, by the way. We became friends after years after that. Um, I was like, you have a very interesting job. What is it that you do? You like this? And the guy's like, yeah, selling cars is the best thing. I like my jobs. Like, oh, that's amazing. And I explained to him, well, I got this. I got the radio show. I have a Hispanic community, like 700 people that I talk to. Maybe you guys would want to sponsor, our radio show. And well, you need to talk to the marketing guy or this sales manager.
mhm.
This guy's name's Bob. Now he's my friend. Um, then I went to the office. I just walked into this. Okay, let me talk to him. I just walked to the office straight through this Nissan dealership, fancy shiny, dealership, and and I said, "Hey, Fabricio said that you are the marketing guy, or you make the decisions here," with this very little horrible accent, no English, like it was terrible. Um, and the guy was like, "Well, you need to talk to this lady here. She's the marketing girl." And then I talked to like 3 people. They didn't buy anything. But then I have this idea, well, maybe I just have to go to the next dealership. So I went to the Hyundai dealership and I offered a sponsorship for my church. And then the guy from the Hyundai dealership, guy from Cuba, he said, yeah, that's a good idea. Let me take you to my manager. And the guy sold the idea to the manager.
Nice.
Yes, you want more people to come from the Hispanic community. This guy is the youth pastor of this church. And then they bought me like a $300 spot for the radio show. And the guy said to me, uh, Reinhardt, last name Reinhardt, he said, um, what is it that you do for a living? I know you go to church, but what is it that you do for a living? Well, I woke up 3 a.m. in the morning. I delivered newspapers, door to door in my piece of crap car. It was like, it was like a 1979 Cadillac I can't remember. It was a really old car, and it was even no, it was not even mine. It was being borrowed to me. Somebody let me use it. Um, and then after that, I do a little construction. And then at nights, I do go to the block plant and I work a few hours and at the late shift. And then the guy goes like, "Oh, we like to learn how to sell." Like, yeah, I've been trying to look for that. I just bought me a book in sales about a week ago. And the guy said, "Well, if you want a job in sales, you can start on Monday." And this was a Dodge and Chrysler dealership.
Mhm.
Uh, it was like maybe random, maybe you call it law of attraction, maybe you call it, I don't know how you call it. Uh, but me being who I am, audacious enough, that now I'm thinking about it, it's like, man, this is crazy because the guy gave me a job and I said to myself, in Costa Rica, nobody drives Chrysler. Like, what is a Chrysler? What is a Dodge? Like, what is this? So I said to myself, if I'm selling something, it has to be something that I really believe and trust and I like. And it has to be either a Toyota or a Nissan. And nothing wrong with the
Right,
American
right, right.
brands. It's just I didn't know anything better, right? This is what my dad used to drive, my uncle used to drive, and this is what everybody will say is the best car. Very reliable automobile, whatever.
Right.
Um, so I actually went back to the first dealership where Fabricio worked. It was a Nissan dealership, and I said, and I went back to the manager, Bob, and I like it was the next day or something, and I say, "Hey, Bob, um, you know that the guys at Chrysler purchased the ad for my Hispanic radio show." Uh, and the guy goes like, he looked at me. He was sitting on his desk. He looked at me up like, really? And guess what? He also offered me a job selling cars. And the guy was like, really? I'm like, yeah, but I don't, maybe I need an advice. I said to him, maybe I need an advice because I don't know anything about Dodge or Chrysler. I really like Toyotas or Japanese cars. What do you think I should do? Hey, if you want a job here, you can start today. It's like, got me a
I
job
love
right there
it.
on the
I love
spot. It was crazy. It was crazy. I was so excited. It was really hard because I was never, that was my first time I ever worked in a commission only position. So yeah, it was kind of maybe naive, maybe audacious. Then a few months later, I became salesperson of the month with
Wow.
my horrible accent. I remember the first car I saw. It was a trading. It was a Porsche 911. This was 2005. I remember the year of the cars we were selling. 2005 for a Nissan Maxima, brand new Nissan Maxima. So an older Porsche. Didn't know anything, and I had somebody training me. So I just get the customer on the floor, start talking to him, couldn't say anything. I was like, "Yeah, look at this big trunk," and I was just like, "I can get in the trunk," and it was just like really skinny and really funny and really like a lot of energy, but communication skills zero, right? So I was just getting to the trunk so the guy could see that I have a big trunk, like making funny, silly stuff. And the guy would say, "Well, I don't understand what you're saying." Like, yes, chimichanga and tacos. And the guy would laugh, and then I could take the guy to the next sales guy with more experience, and the guy would close him.
Right.
So that was my first, and after a few months, then I start, the English start picking up, and I start
I love
doing
it.
better. It's just crazy.
That's a great story.
Uh, yeah, and I did that for a couple of years, for 2 3 years. My entire intention was to learn how to sell and to learn more about business. And I ended up being in one of the best producer Nissan dealerships in the entire region. So I got to talk to a lots of people and eventually kind of pick up uh, like trends, how people behave, and I feel like I could be a psychologist now. Like it's crazy. It's just I feel like I could like tell, okay, with this particular customer, we need to do this. And I own my business now, and a lot of the things we do in our business is we profile the customer if they're anxious, if they need this additional assistance because maybe they're 65, 70 or something, and they need bigger funds or on the contracts. We think about these things, and I think a lot of that comes from that experience of talking to hundreds or potentially thousands of customers in a
Right.
year lapse. Uh, because I understood if we do these things and we tweak things for the customer,
Mm.
then they're gonna be happier. And I translate that knowledge to my team. and it worked very well. We usually get pretty good reviews for our services.
I love it. Okay, so let's get you back. So you left the US and came back to Costa Rica when?
That was '08, maybe a little end 2007 or the beginning of 2008. I remember being unemployed, having just my English, maybe some savings, and I wanted to be in real estate because back then I remember a few months earlier before that. Uh, I can't remember if it was Forbes magazine came out with an article about Remax being that there are three top franchises or brokers sell out of Costa Rica. Number one, the number one Remax office was Los Tres Amigos, which I think they still exist out of El Coco.
Okay.
That was the top
Or in
producer for
Guanacaste,
2000 Guanacaste, Guanacaste El Coco. So I remember looking at this article. So the best selling real estate agent worldwide for Remax was El Coco, and three more will follow in the top 100. I was like, oh, that looks like a good opportunity. I'm good in sales now. Like, I know how to sell. I like people. I like, I could learn something now. I could learn real estate. So
And now you're not afraid of commission only.
no, no, I mean, not at all. It's now natural. This is my thing now. Like,
Right.
no, I evolved from that. I think now I manage business, so I don't even do sales. I don't talk to customers directly. Um, but in that journey, I remember looking at job in real estate. It got me a job in the Escazú office of Caldwell Bankers. Vesta Group is the owner of the franchise. 3 months in, I sold an apartment, $100,000, a small little apartment, little commission. Um, then you hear, the entire finance collapse in the US, the real estate bubble exploded. Everybody everybody lose their 401k.
Right.
A lot of people filed bankruptcy. Nobody was selling anything. All the sudden, all the real estate agents and everybody in the industry got freaked out. A lot of people start looking for other jobs in other industries. And guess what? My career in real estate ended like in less than 6 months. It's like, oh, what
It's
do I
funny
do now?
we have that in common because that's the industry that I was in at that same time. So my husband was a realtor and I was a mortgage lender. I'd been a mortgage lender for over a decade. And like we had in the US in 2008, we had over $1 million worth of property we were in the middle of flipping. And we're
Wow.
not talking like little houses. We're talking like $200,000 houses, right? On the lake that we were in the middle of flipping. And it was like, then all of a sudden they were worth nothing.
Mm,
Nothing.
yeah,
It was like,
I
oh,
remember.
yeah, and I can't even earn any money because I'm a mortgage lender and they're changing the rules so fast that they aren't approving anybody's loans for anything. And so
Mm,
that was a pivotal point for me, because I really thought in my life at that time, because I was in my late 40s at that time, that I was going to end my career in mortgage. Like I would retire from being in the mortgage industry. Like that's where I would do this because I loved it so much. I would do it all the way to the end of my career. And it was like, nope, it was over. Like I hung on as long as I could. I hung on till 2010, and then I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
mm,
Like I can't do this. And so I had to literally. I went back to school at 48 at night. Like I would work all day long at this job that I hated. I had to drive at a commute an hour to get there, an hour to get home. So I would get back in town at 6 p.m. and then I would literally go straight to night school. I would come into town and go straight to school, and I'd be in school
mm.
until 10 p.m. and then go home and go the next day and do it again, just to get my business degree to start the company that I own now. Like I didn't know that that's what I was going to start, but I knew that I had to learn something new because my world was 100% different. So I feel for you because like everywhere that you thought your career was going was like overnight, like just wake up, it's done.
Yeah. To me, I mean, it was hard, but now I have a support system. I have family. I could just pivot easier. And I start just going through jobs. Like, got me a job in a call center. I hated to be in a call center and just repeat, a little script.
Right.
And I understand how you feel. I've been there before. Kind of like, this, the drill.
I do know
So
because I own a
I
call
know.
center now.
But I have to be outside. I need to talk to people. I need to move around. That's just me. I have that energy that I need to like. I'm in my house today, but I'm always working out of a coffee shop, and tomorrow I could be in Tamarindo or Puerto
Right.
Viejo. It's just like that's where I am. So it got me a job in the call center. That just didn't work. I was looking for something else. Somebody offered me a job eventually in logistics after a few jobs. I'm not going to go through every job.
Right.
So somebody offered me a job selling shipping and logistics. Okay, that's interesting. But I'm used to commission only, and they said, "Well, I give you a salary," and it was a decent salary. Like, oh,
Nice.
that's weird. That's weird. So sales job with a salary. Okay, let me try that. Um, so I took the job, and this company is a large shipping company in San Jose. Oh, just to probably worth maybe $10 million operation for Costa Rica. So it's a big company for Costa Rica.
Mhm.
A lot of trucks you see on the highways in Costa Rica will belong to, like, these 18 wheelers will belong to this company, and they have a big ass contract with Intel. So they just got this contract with Intel to do international moving services. This is
Mhm.
a company that specializes in everything else other than moving service. They do air cargo. I think this is their core, and then ocean freight for general goods. They do everything else but not international moving services. And they opened this department. They needed somebody that speaks English to open this department, or to take over this department. It wasn't a small department or something like that. So I got into this job. I started learning about it, and me, who I am, the job, you end up at 5, but I always go back at 5. I mean 8:39, because I just wanted to learn more. So back then, you have YouTube, so just watch every possible YouTube video about shipping or logistics or moving or anything that I can, get my hands on about the shipping process. And of course, I have this big company that if I have a question, I can go just to walk to the customs office and ask, "Hey, I remember Memo. I got this issue, and I don't know what the heck is this. Can you help me?" And they will just coach me, and then I'll go. And I did that for a few months.
That's nice.
And after a few months, I understood like a lot about it. I understood everything. And in a few months, a company that was a department within the company that wasn't making money, it was in red numbers for a long time, and start making money. So I started selling what I knew. I knew the product now. I knew the service now. But they also wanted me to be the account manager for Intel. So I was selling and doing account manager, and now going to customs to talk to the customs, inspector, because my client from Intel is angry because he didn't have the right paperwork, and trying to, selling, account manager, and fixing customs issues
Mhm.
all at the same time, which is it's this is not the way it should be. If you're a large business, you should have 3 guys doing that job.
Right.
um, then I remember investing myself into this business, that I would use my car, my cell phone, my energy. Got sick after a year and a half. I went to the hospital, stressed out. Shipping is a very stressful industry.
I'm
It is
sure.
a stressful because if you make a mistake in a document, it means that the container will be stuck at a port, and each day it's
Oh,
$125,
oh gosh.
$150. So 10 days is $1,500. That's
Ugh.
way more than my salary back then. Um, so you have to be very detail oriented, very precise, and you have to be, and not just you, because it doesn't depend or on you. It
Right.
depends on you, but also the customs broker. But also you have to write or call the shipping companies, and then you also have to go to the government for another government entity, health department, to approve an additional permit for something in the container.
Gotcha.
So it depends on many different people, and then you're always in a stress mood. I mean, you're always thinking, okay, what? And I will dream about my customers. I remember dreaming about the Mrs. Pinita piano, French antique piano from Mexico, that I was moving from Mexico to Costa Rica. Like dreaming about waking up in in the middle of the night, dreaming about my customers. Um,
Well, because the stress
so
that you're taking on the stress of your customers too, right? So they're moving internationally, so they're stressed out anyways, and they're counting on you to make this as smooth
it's,
as possible. And so
I
when
think it's even worse. It's
yeah,
even worse than the traditional cargo, but because
for
a company,
sure.
let's say Coca-Cola, is shipping, I don't know, bottles of plastic
Right.
from Guatemala to Costa Rica. It's just
It's nobody's
plastic.
life.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just a buyer's agent or a logistics coordinator in an office saying, "Oh, we have a delay. Oh, the company's going to have to pay $5,000, whatever."
Yeah.
But me, I knew Mrs. Pinita's piano. If there is an issue, she's not going to have $3,000 or $4,000 more to fix anything.
Right.
Or I mean, it's just, and that this type of things, issues, problems with customs for international moving, they happen every day. They happen very often, and we created processes and systems to mitigate and to have our customers have a good experience. But if the customer doesn't know what they are doing, usually end up having an issue, having their shipping at customs for months and potentially losing everything. And so going forward with the story, I got into a hospital, and at the hospital I have three different friends from three different areas. Like a friend back then, the mother of my girlfriend back then. Three different people said, "Well, Pablo, you're sick. Why? Why are you sick?" The doctor said, "Well, this guy's too stressed out." And so they said, "Well, you're killing yourself. If you're killing yourself out of this, making the money you're making, which is you're not making any money really." Because I was just having a Costa Rican salary in Costa Rica, right? With a
Mhm.
little minimum commission. Uh, so I was used to making five, seven, $10,000 a month in the
Right.
US, right? So then I went all the way down here and start over. It was like, okay, this is a process, right? Uh, Three people offered me, "Hey, how much money do you need to start your business?" Out of the blue, out of like nowhere. I was like, okay. I was like, oh, I was like, that was shocking to me. I was like, why this many people would trust me with their money?
Right.
And I was like really touching. Um, so I said to myself, so if these people are looking, if they believe me, why I do not believe in myself a little bit more? And that's where I decided to start my first at the beginning local moving company slash shipping company. Back then, it used to be called Arivi, which is my last name, Arias, and my partner back in the day, Viques. So it's a mix of the two last names. Very traditional way to name businesses in San Jose
Right.
for Costa Ricans. You see all these like dealerships in San Jose, Beinsa, this name, Sporty Motor, all these things. Those are last names for people or mixes of last names. Traditional thing, maybe Latin American thing. I don't know. So as my Arivi Movers, that was our first name, first domain.
And
We bought a little moving truck, and here there you go, me driving the moving truck, loading the boxes, selling. So it was even worse, right? But it was my business. It
yeah.
was even a lot more work, but it was my thing. And I just didn't even have to sell a whole bunch. I would just do two international moves in a month, and that was, better than my salary.
Yeah.
So
So
me,
where did you find your first customers?
back,
Because
I
what
knew,
year was that?
yeah, I knew how to sell. Like I knew how to sell because I spent a year and a half with this company. So I started researching for leads or lead service providers online, and I found a company in Holland or something like that in Europe that will specialize on creating leads or developing landing pages for moving companies,
Mm.
especially specifically international moving shipments. So I just got and start buying some leads and get on the phone, sending quotes, and those are my first customers. I didn't have no corporate clients like the company that I used to work for.
Right.
Uh, because I didn't have the skills or the resources to sell to a corporation. You need to have more to sell to a corporation. You need to give them 3 days credit. You need to have a more robust infrastructure. For a small business owner, I mean, you can just get customers directly and do the marketing and acquire the customer. And that was our very beginning.
And what year was that, Pablo?
2011.
Okay.
11 October, I believe it's October 2011.
Okay.
That was our first, yeah, our very beginning with our corporation. And before that, I did a little bit of uh, shipping and logistics for this company where I learned most of my skills or most of my knowledge. And then after that, I remember driving the truck in the middle of the night, going through the border in Panama, pick up a shipment in Panama, loading something, then driving back to Costa Rica. I have been in Port Balboa, Panama, releasing shipments. I have been in the customs terminal in Managua, Nicaragua, releasing shipments. Uh, a lot of it is with the intention to learn, like losing money. I'll just go like took this customer, went to Panama myself because I wanted to see how things work at the terminal customs in Panama.
Right.
So a lot of it was like an investment. It's like I want to learn. And I know my competition, most of the people in this industry, they have somebody that does sales and then somebody else that does customs. And this person that does customs, he doesn't even know how the port looks. He's in an office in San Jose.
Right.
He doesn't have an idea what is to be in a terminal
Well,
and
not
what are
only
the
that, but
processes.
the relationships that you build also, right?
Yeah,
So, like, you build those relationships, and now is it a smoother transaction because they know this is Pablo's client's stuff coming in?
it helps. It helps a whole bunch. Sometimes I know like the customer is in trouble for like maybe losing half of their shipment, and got on the phone and talked to somebody and hey Paolo, we don't have no issues. Just get that thing out of customs right now. And customer took everything out, no paying taxes sometimes. And
Mm,
I mean, we're saying this is not a legal way to operate, but out of a I'll say they trust or the business I provide to them and to make it easier because they know if they wait for 2 or 3 days and then there's an inspection on it, it'll be 2 or 3 years before they see that shipment come to light. So because the process is so bureaucratic and the customer sometimes is naive or sometimes um, so this is what we do in our business. I find out the only way we can help people is informing people how to do it right
mhm.
way ahead, way before. Um, so it's not even about selling anymore. This is why I think I said this to you the other day. Instead of selling now, I'm positioning myself. I'm providing insight to a community, and people come and they trust. And I need that in my sales process. It's not even because I want to sell more. It's like I need that. I need the customer to
Right.
understand that what we're doing is very dangerous. It's very if you don't do it properly, it could cost you $10,000. Last year, we had a case where a customer lost $32,000 vehicle. Uh, Lexus, I can't remember the year. It was a newish Lexus, but I remember the invoice, $32,000 car.
Wow.
Things like that. Just briefly into the story. Basically, we give them a little coaching. We do a consultation. This is how we do, and this is what's going to happen. And then the customer we normally coordinate to pick up the vehicle in Canada, load it. We manage the entire thing until it gets here. But the customer called us one day and she said, "Oh, the vehicle is at the terminal already. Like my driver is about to get to the terminal." Like, whoa, what happened? I talked to you 3 months ago, and now you have the vehicle here. So I didn't have time to coordinate or see anything.
Right.
The guy just show up at a customs terminal with a car. Okay, that's still okay. If you know what you're doing, that's still okay. But when that happening is they driven the vehicle from Canada. They just driven border, which is crazy enough, right? That's crazy enough. But some people will do it, and we have those customers very often as well. When they got into the Costa Rican border, he got into the border at 11. I remember looking at the stamps, like the
Mhm.
passport stamps, and
Right.
they got into the border at like 11:40 something p.m. at
Oh, wow.
night. So really late, but the office at customs they close at 11:30. They're not open overnight.
Right.
So the normal thing to do would be for her to park the vehicle, sleep in the car, or maybe get a taxi or something to a hotel or something. Which
Right.
there is no hotels at the border. It's not a nice place to stay.
Did she come down,
That
like,
was
through Nicaragua or?
yeah through Nicaragua,
Mm.
from Canada all the way down, going south. So basically what they did is they just stamped their passports because immigration was still open to the passport, but customs, which is another
Right.
office in another building, but I don't know, a few yards, away,
Right.
um, they were closed and they didn't know any better. All lights are dark. They just keep on driving the car. They just driven the vehicle until they get to their property, their house in Costa Rica, in Guanacaste, and then they just driven the vehicle for a few days, and they just they thought they could drive it for 3 months, but nobody at customs knew that this vehicle was illegally in Costa Rica because
Wow.
it was never properly
Right.
uh,
Documented.
registered as a vehicle in Costa Rica. It was just she have a permit for it, so they driven the vehicle into a customs terminal, got it in, and then it goes. Now it's I don't think she will ever see this vehicle. I just I tried to help. Like I got into my pickup, went to her house, went to the border into Nicaragua, like 6 hours away from my house. Tried to talk to the director of customs at that border. uh, we just tried to do what we could, but on that border I don't have enough resources of connections, and I also recommend not to do any customs clearance at the borders or at the ports. It's just more bureaucracy and more corruption.
So did
uh,
they seize the vehicle?
yep, that's what's going to happen. It's just going into an investigation. Like, they wanted to know how is this vehicle, and then we explained this, we sent letters. It's been like maybe a year now
Mm.
since it was letters back and forth and trying to set up meetings, going to the terminal, trying to talk to somebody, but nobody would just listen. And that story is normal. Like,
Ah,
if you come here, there is customs terminals within the Central Valley. There are some customs terminals that you can potentially see thousands of vehicles parked, and you can tell these vehicles are there for years. You can see their paint has faded. You can see the tires are like flat. You can see they have been parked there for a
wow.
decade. Because
So the
it's just
government
simple
can't do
thing.
anything with them?
What they do is, after 1 year, they have the legal option to action this, to sell this, but the bureaucracy behind it, and the entity, they give this to an entity. It's called IMAS. The IMAS process to do this takes 5 years, because
Uh,
they have all the donations, and by the time somebody will action that, that vehicle is not going to be worth. I mean, a vehicle just being depreciated over time, even if it's in a nice place in a garage,
yeah, but it needs to be driven.
being
It
worth.
needs to be the engine needs to run, the batteries need to run, the tires need to move, all of those things. Otherwise, it just starts deteriorating.
And then on top of that, yes, nobody has driven the vehicle, and on top of that is, on a lot,
Yeah.
sun, rain, everything.
Uh,
Uh, so those are the things that I just learned, that when I was looking at how to improve this process, I said to myself, well, we need to do something like the over communication approach, and I call it like this way. And my team, we're 11 in the team now. Uh, we we go like, we need to
right.
over communicate things internally, because a customer goes from one department to another depending on the situation. So we need to over communicate things a lot. We need to over communicate things to the customer. So in a normal sales process, what we ask the customer to do is to book a consultation,
Right.
and we don't follow up. We don't, like, it's a different thing. I understand you are in the sales business, setting appointments, and uh, we want a customer to understand that this is an appointment like going to the doctors, or
Right.
like going to, you're getting a divorce, or you're getting into a lawsuit, or you're going to go to jail
Right.
if you don't go into this appointment with this specific attorney.
Right.
We want our customers to understand they need to put an effort to go listen and understand. Because
And
if I said to a,
take notes, like write down, bring your questions.
if, and we give them all the notes anyway,
Yeah.
but we want the customer to be engaged and understand how risky this is. If they do understand that from the beginning and they make the appointment, they are from the very beginning invested in this project. It's not a service that we're offering just like a service. This is a project that we're working together, and we sell our service as we are a project management company that specializes on international moving services. So I don't own the trucks, the containers, the vessels. I don't own customs. I don't have no say. And if the customs inspector woke up today angry and he wants to delay your shipment for an entire week, he could do that.
Right.
So me explaining the customer these things, telling you, please do not put food in the container because this could cost you an additional, who knows how much. Or please make sure that if you send me 100 boxes, it's 100 boxes, because if you send 102 boxes, these 2 boxes are going to be confiscated. You're going to have fines. And it could be like somebody's loading a container and last minute there is a broom, and wife says, "Oh, I want my broom." Throw it in the container. So that one broom could mean a $500 fine.
Right.
So it's very detail oriented.
So tell me about what is it if you want to talk about like right now, was there a range of price for consultation for your initial consultation?
We consultations are free. Uh, we can only handle so much. Average in a month, we do 66 consultations. Uh, 66, sometimes 60, sometimes 70, depending on the season. We're very busy. Like the consultations. My guy that does the consultation, his name is Abelardo Curiel. Abelardo, he's based out of Mexico. He's been
Okay.
working for me now for 2 years, but he is from this industry. It's really hard to get experts on this
I'm
industry in
sure.
such a small country. Costa Rica is a small country,
Right.
so a lot of my employees are Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Panama. Um, so he does my consultations. So he has been training Costa Rica. He's now been doing it for 2 years. Um,
So then
the-
the next step after consultation is, so let's
so,
say that personally I have a consultation with you and I go, great. I would like to hire you guys as my project manager to get a shipping container down there. What does that
so,
next step look like?
the first thing is consultation. It's part of our over communication.
Okay.
Over communicate things in a sometimes 30 minutes. So we go through the process. Then after that, we send an email with everything we just discussed. Like we again, okay, this is once again the idea is to over communicate things, and we try to understand what type of customer, what are your needs. And we tell you, like oftentimes we say things that are gonna kill the sale
Right.
because it just makes more sense for me because this is a very small community. Like it makes more sense to me. You're not my customer, but you know somebody in Tamarindo, you know somebody in Atenas or Grecia that will need the service
Right.
that you will appreciate and say, well, maybe you could talk to Paulo. And I don't know if you have Google or research my name in Facebook. Just through this weekend, I counted how many people refer my business. In 2 days, we had like 15 people random in the Facebook groups. You need to talk to Paulo. You need to talk to international relocation partner. I'll say more than 50% of those are my customers, but there is a big group of people that it was just people that we just did the consultation, and they understood the value and how much money they were saving. And sometimes some people will say, yes, Pablo, I understand. Maybe not your customer. This is too complex for me. And I
Right.
say, like, that's good. That's good. I know they're going to go and become an ambassador for my business. And
Right.
this is what's happening. Consultation is first, then we send a little description, then we create a little website per customer. This is a kind of like a description. It's a landing page designed for each customer. The fonts are 18, 19 size, so big as letters, and we kind of mark the most important things.
Right.
And if you were to print this, I think it's about 20 pages.
Okay.
Not because it's a lot of information, because the letters are big.
Okay.
We want to over communicate. We want to point out this is a risk. This is a risk. Do not ship this. If you do it this way, you could have issues. And even with this approach of educating, consulting, trying to mitigate the risk, even with that, we still have customers that decide to drive their vehicle. Even with that, we still have people that, oh yeah, but I told you so. I was like, and even with that, we have customers that, no, nobody told me. Like, what do you mean? We have this as a process. We have
Yeah.
scripts. We have
Yeah.
we
The letters were
report.
this big and they were red.
And then in this website, there is a little option that you can book. You can click on it. Then you can sign digitally, and with that you get the last draft of this website, kind of like a PDF with kind of like a little code that says this is our contract or this is
Right.
what we discussed. And then after that, we introduce sales introduced to the operations department, and the operations department again over communicate things. They send an email. These are the important notes. Just a reminder. Dan. Make sure did it again, and then we open groups, WhatsApp groups with wife, husband.
Right.
Maybe they want to include somebody else, or maybe they have somebody here that they manage their property, whatever they want to do. So we do that, and we have 3 of our employees in this group, and I'm always in every group.
Right.
So we do a lot of groups at the same time. I don't have time to go through every group. It's like a lot of
I'm sure.
conversations. But when there is an issue or something, they go like, "Hey, Pablo, make sure to look at group of relocation project 375, Mr. Wilson's, and let's take a look." And then we have a meeting. What happened with this customer? We got delay or something got damaged, or how can we compensate this customer? And we create a little plan. We have this, recurring meetings once a month to just make sure we're doing the right thing and the customer is happy. Uh, but this WhatsApp group, it's also another way to over communicate things because the customer always will have questions. And another reason for that is like sometimes we talk about the shipping process at the beginning of the year, and they're shipping in October 10 months
Right.
later, and they forget about things. So we do open this group. We have a little template with introduction. This is the operations manager. This is the person you talk to. This is that. And then important notes again in the WhatsApp. Bam.
Mhm.
Make sure this. So we communicate all of this risk and regulations
It's
and
so
all of these
important.
things at least 5, 7 times in this
Yeah,
process and
it's
through
so
the
important.
process. And nobody else, I don't think nobody else in this industry does anything like this.
So
Our
how many people do you help per year, do you think?
last year we
Or
did
families?
154. We have the numbers is 154 shipments.
Yeah.
And you asked me about pricing. The average shipment cost for last year it was a little under $10,000, 9,000 something, but it was almost $10,000. The average cost for a shipment that doesn't include import taxes and storage fees. It's called terminal handling charges. But that's just the freight cost. But adding those things, it could be 12, $13,000. Um, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. It's like
Right. I love it, and it's a
um
service that's needed because, like, there's so much, um, bits and pieces, right, that you have to bring together. Like, you may find a guy that's going to do this thing, but is all of the rest of it done? You may find a guy that's gonna get your container from Canada down to Fort Lauderdale or down to Miami, and then bring it in, and then all of the other pieces that have to happen, and you're so right because, like, I've heard so much information about pack all of your appliances in used boxes. Make sure you save all the boxes so they go inside there. Like there's so much information out there, like to avoid the maximum taxation that you will be receiving
mhm.
when it comes in. And so, but to have all of that information in one spot is got to be so valuable. So you're not just tracking down, and food items, right? Like so many people don't know. There's a bug crawling on me. Sorry. Like, I just swept it off the desk and then it landed on my thigh, and I'm like, "Crap, that wasn't a good idea." So,
uh,
like, to have all of that information in one spot, like, I don't think people would even consider, like, "Really, don't bring food in." Like, that's just gonna cause a problem, like, and do you need it?
Sometimes no, it's sometimes the customer doesn't know any better. Sometimes they hire a local moving company. I don't know. You hire a local moving company.
They
That
just
local
come pack
guy,
everything up.
he doesn't understand international shipping or logistics. He just know how to load boxes in a truck.
Right.
So he's used to just moving from somebody from one neighborhood to the other. And what does he do? He just open boxes, load all the spaces, and then he gets here, and then it's an issue.
Yeah.
And then we have
So
to make
so what is
decisions.
the number one thing that you would like people to know about your company and your team? Because your team is amazing also, but, like, not because you don't just serve Costa Rica now, you are expanding.
Okay, I have a couple of different things
Okay.
that I'm working on and I'm very passionate about is I hate I mean, I just do not like selling the container because there's a container. It's just metal or the boxes, and I feel that's the approach for most of my uh,
Competitors?
companies that compete against me. It's a transaction. It's like, okay, you have a container, you're moving from Florida to Costa Rica, from Florida to Playa del Carmen. Um, I'm a people's person. I like to understand this story. I like to understand why you're moving to Costa Rica. Why have you decided to make my country your house, your place? It's
Mhm.
like very curious about this. And then I'm very also like, you know, so you have some level of success. I want to learn about you. I mean, so you meaning that you are opening a new restaurant or new hotel in Playa del Coco, or so
Mhm.
I'm very excited about these stories. Um, So the first thing is I understand we're moving humans, and I try to transfer this into my team. Like I said, I explained to my team, we have meetings thinking, let's try to catch in this process how else we can touch the emotions of this family.
Right. Because
We have
you're
this
moving
meeting.
lives, their whole lives are going from here to
We
here.
do silly things. We do silly things sometimes. Like we have a customer, we make the final delivery, and we give them a little gift. Welcome to Costa Rica. Or we know somebody's pregnant, and then we talk about what's their name, and then on the delivery day we have a gift for the daughter or for the things like that. Because I
Right.
feel, and this also it creates two things. It creates first the customer is happy because it's a good service. It's just a way beyond of what's the traditional transactional service, but it also creates a culture within my company
Mhm.
of people that cares about what they're doing. They care about we're servicing, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Wilson. We're servicing human beings. They're now coming into our countries and making investments, and now they could potentially hire, my aunt or my cousin. Or they could potentially do all these things. So it creates I'll say a double benefit because then our team is emotionally invested
Right.
into what they're doing.
There's a book out there
So
called Raving Fans. If it's probably on Audible too, if you wanted to listen to it, it's called Raving Fans, and it's that, right? It's like not just doing the thing; it's doing the thing plus 25%, plus looking for those opportunities where you can create raving fans, not just customers. You want people that are out there selling for you because you're the best person for this job. Your company is the best company for this job. And you create raving fans by those things that you're doing. It's by Ken Blanchard. And I'll send you the link to it. But like I read it when I was
please,
working for Wells Fargo 20 years ago. Like literally. And it was literally, how can I do something that whenever they're having dinner, a year from now with friends that have come down to visit and they're like, hey, we want to move to Costa Rica. And they're like, oh, don't even talk anymore. You have to call Pablo. Like that's what you want them to do, right? You don't want them to even have a conversation about moving until they call and talk to you because their life was so much better on the other side of the experience with you. And especially as they have conversations with other expats who've had nightmare after nightmare of getting their stuff in and getting there and relocating and starting a new life in another country. When they hear those stories, they're like, oh my God, you just should have talked to Pablo, right? Like, and so raving fans is just what you're doing is thinking about the not just about the customer, it's thinking about the human on the other side of that dollar bill.
I think it's a lot of it is my personality, just pushing, trying to push that into the team and trying to make sure they understand this is important and being right with people. It's important. If we make the mistake, we broke a plate, we pay it. We
Right.
pay for the broken plate, things like that. So with this philosophy and mentality, way of being, I've been trying to. I ask myself, how can I scale this up to another level? Like I mean, you said, how can I scale this up to another level? So I start building this thing is called theexpatcommunity.com. It doesn't even have my brand in it because my business is called International Relocation Partner.
Right.
We do that. We have a good community. People are buying. It's a business that I can potentially disappear for 6 months and it's working and it will continue to work. But and then we're now getting into Panama. A couple of years in Panama now, and we are also in Mexico.
So
We
it's
have two employees in Mexico.
theexpatcommunity.com.
That's my business is international relocation partner.
Right.
This is what we are operating 3 countries, and we are doing every now and then also a little bit of Portugal and Spain because people are asking for these destinations. But parallel to that, I'm building a community that is called theexpatcommunity.com.
Right.
In Costa Rica, we got into the management of one of the largest expat groups for Facebook, 29,000 people. In Mexico, I just launched one group for Mexico for the expat community .com Mexico. And I think this is another way of helping. I think people need to connect with
Mhm.
other people who are doing the same. So groups is one of them. But it's a series of different things and projects that go under that umbrella. So it has its own website. The website has local news translated into English. So expats, they don't know what's happening in Costa Rica.
Right.
Like you are in the expat bubble, you know, don't say otherwise. I know you don't speak the local language. Sorry. So what
It's
we
the
do
truth.
is we look at the local newspaper and we go. We cannot do every newspaper or every new. We
Right.
just pick and choose the
The
things that
relevant.
are relevant.
Mhm.
We one of my orders for my thing is I don't want to sugarcoat things. If you have something that is negative, I want you to to show it as well, the good and the bad.
Right.
Why is it a good idea to invest in Costa Rica? But what are some of the challenges? I think is important. So that website has those, and that gets sent out in a newsletter on Fridays as well. So local news translated into English. On Fridays, we partner with the Spanish school to offer free Spanish classes on
That's
Fridays.
awesome.
That's 1:30 p.m. every Friday. Uh, so we partner with this school. We just go into StreamYard, broadcast, Facebook Live, and that goes into our Expat group, and also in Sarah Elena's Expat group because she allows me to publish that into her Facebook group. 75,000 people in her group, and also into other groups in Panama, Costa Rica.
And
Um,
I will pop because Laura sent them all to me. I will pop all of the links for all of everything that we're talking about in the show notes down below. So if anybody's looking for that, just scroll on down. All of the links are here, and that way they will have access to all of that as well. She sent me even all the links to the Facebook groups.
so you have the local news, free Spanish classes. This is a process. It's been. We also have a book, Costa Rica book is a how to live in Costa Rica book. I hire a professional writer for this because I'm not a writer. I just told you I can't even read.
You can't read.
But she has 10 books under her experience. One of them is a bestseller USA Today book. She's
Right.
been an expert for 10 years in Costa Rica. She lives in Tronadora. The book is about a couple of months to be released. And this book is going to be called The Expat Community Book Costa Rica. And then we'll finish that we're going to go into Mexico or other countries to do the same thing. And we are also trying to do a plugin directory within this, so people could say, well, this is a good provider, 5-star reviews to Pablo, or this is a bad provider, no stars for outlier legal services, things
Right.
like that.
Gotcha.
So I think these tools will help people
I think so too.
navigate better this journey, and eventually if they need shipping services, they will think about us.
Of course, of course, of course. Okay, so as we wrap up, because we're like right at an hour right now, anybody who has any questions for Pablo, I'm going to put all of the links to the expatcommunity.com Costa Rica, the Facebook group in there, and then International Relocation Partners. Is that right? Yes.
Yep.
International Relocation Partner. I'll put that link in here also, and the expat community. I'm going to put everything that Laura sent me over. I'll drop in the show notes down below. Reach out.
Amazing.
Get a consultation. Starting with information is always so valuable. Like as we get bits and pieces of information, to have it all in one place is got to be just a time saver and a money saver as it is. And to have an expert on the other end helping you navigate that tricky situation of what do I bring? What don't I bring? How do I bring it here? Do I need the Dimex to do that? All of that stuff is super important. So Pablo, I appreciate your time. I know that you gave me
Thank
an
you.
hour of your valuable time, and I'm so grateful for that. And I know that all of my friends who are considering becoming an expat in Costa Rica or Mexico or Panama, where you are right now, all of the countries you're in right now, will be glad to reach out to you. So thank you. I'll be in country in a couple of days, so I'm super excited about that myself.
We should get a coffee or a
We
beer.
should.
If you land here in San Jose, I'm 5 minutes away from the airport.
Yes, I do land in San Jose and fly back out of San Jose. I'll text you afterwards. Okay, guys, I appreciate you all, and pura vida.
Pura vida. Thank you.